Welcome to the February 18th, 2026 Medicine Hat Police Commission meeting. I will open this evening with a land acknowledgement. The Medicine Hat Police Service and its Police Commission honor and acknowledges that we are situated on Treaty 7 and Treaty 4 territory, traditional lands of the Siksika, Kainai, Piikani, Stoney Nakoda, Tsuut'ina, as well as the Cree, Sioux, and Saulteaux bands of the Ojibwe people. We also acknowledge that we are on the traditional homelands of the Métis Nation. I would now ask commissioners present to declare any known or perceived conflicts of interest related to the agenda as was circulated. Seeing none, we will move on to this evening's agenda. The agenda was circulated as part of your pre-meeting package. Are there any additions, deletions, or amendments? Seeing none, I'll ask for a motion to approve as presented. Commissioner Johnson and Councillor Cox, thank you. Any abstain? Opposed? The agenda is approved as presented. January 21st, 2026 open meeting minutes were circulated as part of your pre-meeting package. A motion to approve or amend as presented. Commissioner Chukwunurwa, thank you. The seconder, Commissioner Robles, thank you. Are there any revisions, deletions, amendments to the minutes as presented? Seeing none, any opposed? Anybody abstain? Minutes are approved as presented. With that, Chief Murphy will come to presentation. Let you take it over.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I would like to introduce Sergeant Adam Gregory. He's going to do a quick presentation for us about fraud. So March is Fraud Prevention Month, and Adam does an amazing job around our community doing fraud presentations to community groups, especially seniors, of things they should look out for. He's going to give us a bit of an overview of how that looks, and we just want to shine light on this topic as we go into Fraud Prevention Month. Welcome, Adam, and thank you for being here.
Thanks, everyone. Can everyone hear me okay if the mic's right here? Oh, it's not on. I don't know how to turn it on. How is that? No? Oh. Test? There we go.
Now you're good to go.
Is that better than right there? Okay. Thank you, sir. Again, my name is Adam Gregory, and thanks for inviting me here to speak. I need to tell you right away that it's going to be difficult to make fraud exciting. So I know I'll do my best, but it's not the best or the most exciting topic that we could be talking about tonight anyway. So I was speaking to Inspector Graham, and I said if I should start off this presentation with a game, and I think that's probably the most appropriate thing to do. So if everyone can give me $100 each, and we'll see if I give you a bunch of money back. Chances are I won't. But no, yeah, I'm going to speak to you about our fraud presentation that I put on. Typically, this presentation is about an hour and a half long. I understand you all don't want to be here that long for fraud tonight, so I will move through it quite quickly. And more so, this presentation is going to be about the presentation I would normally give to the community. So we'll look at what fraud is, kind of the overarching frauds that we're seeing in Medicine Hat, and then some tips and tricks to not become victims and how to lower our numbers. I do have some statistics at the end that will probably make you all very sad, so you can be prepared for that. Our fraud presentations, we recognized a few years ago, we wanted to stay involved in our community and sharing our information to, again, create less victims in our community. Part of that is a partnership the Medicine Hat Police Service has with the Medicine Hat Safe Community Association. So through them, I've been doing some presentations, and they've been doing some presentations in order to try to get citizens to present to citizens and have more contact throughout our community groups. So I just wanted to mention that they're a big part of this as well. Ultimately, what is fraud? So fraud is just anytime anyone's using some type of deception to have some type of personal gain. And normally, that's financial gain. I would actually say that all fraud will boil down to financial gain at some point. It's just whether it's one step to get your money or whether it's 10 steps to eventually get some money. So whether that is somebody that is calling you and asking you to send them an e-transfer to actually gain cash quickly, or it is attempts to gain a whole bunch of your personal information in order to open a student loan at a university that you've never been to. The end goal is the same, as to get cash and use that cash, but it's just how you get there. I'm going to talk about kind of two main types of fraud. One is going to be mass marketing or phishing that we've heard about, and the other is going to be identity theft. We're not going to focus too much on identity theft, as what I really want people to get from this presentation is I don't want them to lose their money. Especially when times are difficult and our economy gets difficult, then frauds go up and people are more willing to take risks in order to help their livelihood, and we don't want to see that financial loss. With identity fraud, yes, it sucks, but typically we don't lose financially. It becomes an inconvenience, and we end up spending days making phone calls trying to convince credit card companies or universities or car loan places that it wasn't us that made those purchases, but we don't end up financially out. So I'm going to focus more on the mass marketing and phishing tonight, okay? So how do fraudsters contact us? Any way that we communicate. And then the other thing I should say, typically I move around a lot, so this is a little bit odd for me to have to try to stay still. So I'm sorry if I'm animated with my hands, but I'd prefer to walk in front of you all, but it'll be a little different standing here. So yeah, how do fraudsters contact us? Any way that we communicate. So whether, and I imagine that you guys experience this kind of daily, whether it's through text messages or phone calls or emails, even door-to-door kind of fraud people going through. We don't see that as often now, but any way that we communicate, fraudsters communicate as well. And what do we know? So fraud affects everybody. In a couple slides here, I'll talk about, I'm sure you've heard of the grandparent scheme. I don't love the title of that, as fraud is not just a senior crime. It doesn't matter if you are 105 years old or 14 years old, or if you are born in Medicine Hat or you were born in another country and you're living here. It doesn't matter if you're male or you're female or anything like that. Fraud affects all of us. If you have the ability to communicate and you have the ability to provide money, then you have the ability to become a victim of fraud. Also, as it's listed up there, fraud is ever changing. So fraud is a multi-billion-dollar organized crime business across the world. It changes with TikTok trends. It changes with the season. It changes with our holidays that are coming up, whether it's Christmas. It'll change if there's disasters going on within Canada or somewhere else in the world. It is continually changing to, I suppose, to keep that financial gain in the fraudsters' path, if you will. The tricky thing for police is to stay on top of the different types of frauds that are going on. In the end, though, the goal of the frauds doesn't change. It's always going to be that, again, that financial gain, and the tips or the things that we can do to prevent us from being victims don't need to change either. The number one way to prevent any type of fraud is just through our communication. If we are talking to people and we're running the situations that come in front of us by people that we care about or people we trust, whether that's our neighbors, our relatives, our parents, our children, often we're able to identify that something is a fraud, and we can prevent ourselves from losing that money. Also, I encourage people often to call the police. So you'll hear with some of these frauds that I will talk about that maybe common sense is something that people should have seen. But when people are in it and when they are being pressured with timelines and they're being pressured with secrecy and potentially threats to a loved one's safety, they're not thinking clearly, and that idea of common sense isn't there. However, if they ask somebody that's not part of it and not involved in it, that can be quite obvious to someone else. Often the groups I present to, I'll ask the people that, who here has paid taxes, and it's kind of fun because obviously everybody has. But usually the groups that I'm presenting to are people that haven't called the police very often. Well, if you are the subject of what you think could be a fraud and you don't have anyone else to talk to, or even if you do, contact the police service. That's why we're there. There's non-emergency numbers that you can call in and run the situation that you're facing, and we can help you navigate that and determine if it's fraud before you become a victim and lose your hard-earned money. And again, I kind of talked about this a little bit. Is everyone familiar what phishing is? Yeah, so just like and if you don't mind, by show of hands, who's been in private business in their lifetime? So a little bit. So mass marketing or phishing is simply, as it sounds, it's advertising. So we're throwing a whole bunch of information just out and hoping that somebody grabs onto that hook, right? Like a fishing line. So I don't think we necessarily had to spell it with a PH, and F would have been fine. So it's the same idea, is that the information is presented out to us in hopes that somebody grabs that hook and they take the first step of the fraud. We're much more likely to commit ourselves to being a victim of fraud if we're the decision makers and we make that decision to participate in it, rather than somebody reaching out to us and trying to convince us to participate. And again, identity theft, I'm not going to go too far on. Who remembers phone books? You guys remember phone books, right? Okay, so we used to have our names, our phone numbers, and lots of times our addresses in phone books. We like to think that our information is really, really private. It's just not. I'm not saying that we don't have to care about our information, and we need to be aware of what informations we share and what information is realistic. If TELUS is calling us and asking for our social insurance number, we need to put a stop to that and recognize that should be a red flag that it's not real. But if people gather our personal information, it's not the end of the world. Again, they may use that to open accounts, or they may use that to open a student loan or obtain a vehicle. But in the end, it's usually unlikely that we're held financially liable for that. If you did not attend a university in Victoria to gain a degree, it's unlikely that any of us are going to be willing to pay for that student loan that went out for that. It's just going to be days of phone calls to sort that out. So this is where turning an hour and a half presentation into 20 minutes is a little bit tricky, okay? So normally about an hour would be spent kind of diving into each one of these frauds. I'll fly through them a little bit in anticipation that you may have some questions about them at the end, if that works for you all. And it's kind of interesting presenting to police or people on the police commission, because lots of these frauds will use us as the perpetrators, if you will. So if you don't mind showing me, it's got to be a little bit interactive, but who's ever received a phone call or a text message from a government agency? So whether that's the Canada Border Services Agency or, yeah, it's especially when we get close to Christmas and parcels and when packages are coming to our house. I know if I received a call and said that a package was coming to my home at any given day, I'm sure that there is. So basically what this fraud is, and I'll just give a rundown on some of these, you guys. But this is where often the CBSA is the most common one, where they're calling us to tell us that a package is held at the border, and it can be released with a very minimal payment. So whether it's $2.50, it could be something very minor that's insignificant to us, and all they need is our credit card account to process that. Of course, the fraud isn't in the $2.50. It's obtaining those numbers so that it can be used instantly on the internet for as much money as they can get through until we identify that it's a bigger problem than it is. The grandparent scam, again, not my favorite title. But the way the grandparent scam works is somebody from typically law enforcement or posing as a relative will call a potential victim and say, "Hi, grandma or grandpa." Typically the response is, "Sorry, is this Scott?" Whatever name that person says, the answer is always going to be yes. Yes, it is, and I'm in trouble. If it's not the person posing as the relative, it's a person posing as a potentially law enforcement saying, "Hey, it's Sergeant Gregory, and I'm with your grandson," and they're in trouble. The interesting thing about the grandparent scam is that it puts timelines on. So I'll often ask who in the room has family secrets. I won't do that here, or I won't ask for your answers. But everybody does have something in their family, and they want to protect the ones they love. So if they receive a call from law enforcement saying that your loved one is in trouble because they've been caught doing something horrendously criminal, and they're going to face a serious consequence if you don't help them out with finances or potentially bail money. The idea of this is to put pressure on the person they've contacted with to provide money, apply that time frame, and then ask them to keep it a secret because it's embarrassing for the relative. Often, just like what we would tell our kids when our kids are growing up, especially if an adult's telling them to keep it a secret, this is the time that it's a red flag and it's not to keep it a secret. So the grandparent scam is 100% preventable if we talk to people. The problem is that the fraudsters are very, very good at what they do. This is what they do as their career, and they're convincing. But in this one, if we stop and we think and we talk to our neighbors or we talk to our relatives, or we, most importantly, hang up and call the person that is being said is in trouble, so our grandchild or our relative that we're worried about, typically they're going to answer and say, no, I'm not in Ontario under arrest, and I'm actually out, the store stocking shelves as I normally would be on a Wednesday night. But that's how the grandparent scam functions. The known company one is, we'll often see it with things like TELUS, or companies reaching out, hoping to offer us a better deal. And normally this type of fraud is to gather our credit card information again and use it against us, or use it for their benefit, or to gather information for that identity theft idea to use it somewhere else. Just keep in mind, when there's companies reaching out to us, the information that they're asking us for, they typically have already. So if there's a company reaching out to us, asking us what our account number is and what information we need to provide them to get into our accounts, if they're the ones that reached out to us, they should know that already. And a big kind of good tip, if we're ever uncomfortable with a company calling us, is to gather their information and ask to call them back. And then research the number ourselves of the appropriate way to contact that company and call them that way. I've even had that with police when I'm dealing with someone in the community that I have to phone call and they don't believe I'm a police officer. And I'll tell them to hang up with me, research the phone number to the police service, and ask whoever answers to track me down and put them through to me. So just like that, that's a way to prevent us from becoming a victim of fraud. In the interest of time's sake, I'll skip through a few of these, but I'll just talk about in-person and overpayment maybe quickly. We don't see in-person fraud as much anymore, and as a police service, we are excited when we do. If it's happening in person in our community, that gives us an opportunity to investigate. So nowadays, with the ability to gain video surveillance and to actually lay eyes on someone and to follow a bank account or follow the money, it's a wonderful chance for us to use our skills and investigate. The problem with most of these frauds are that our money is not just leaving our account, it's leaving the country. And as soon as that money leaves the country, it becomes nearly impossible for police to investigate. So when somebody becomes a victim of a $100 fraud or they become a victim of a $150,000 fraud, often the answer from police is the same, and it's I'm sorry, you're not going to get your money back, which is a difficult message to share and difficult for our community to hear. And the overpayment one is something that's on the rise as well. So an overpayment fraud is one where typically people get hired online to do some type of job online, and they're going to get some type of a bonus given to them. And that bonus may come as a check that's being sent to them through FedEx, and they'll receive it the next day. And it's supposed to be a $250 bonus. And the next day they receive a check in the mail, and it's $2,500 instead of $250. So the normal thing, just as we would all do, is we'd call that company and say that, hey, I received this and it's in error. And that's when the person tells us, it's okay, it was an error on our end, just go ahead and deposit it and send us back the extra. Keep that money. The problem is in 3 days that check bounces and it was fraud, but the extra $2,250 that we sent back was actually sent from our account, and that's real money and it's gone. So kind of an interesting fraud that we're seeing more and more. Yeah. Just because I'm pushing it here, I'm trying, you guys. So the normal presentation, so the police service and I, again, we recognize that need to share the importance of this frauds in our community. And we've been doing presentations, really diving deep into each one of these frauds over the past few years, probably about 10 to 15 times a year. So we are out trying to encourage our citizens to have knowledge and to not become victims. But I'm going to show you guys the sad part of statistics here now. So, you guys can read the screen as I'm speaking, but I'll just hit the main points of these. So in 2022, you'll see that there was about $2 million lost locally in Medicine Hat. That's a significant amount of money. And the next line is the other one I want to point out, is that about 10% of that money is recovered. So if this were the United States and I was telling you that I'm applying to be your sheriff and don't worry, I'm going to solve 10% of crime, I don't think I would get your support very easily. And do you think that we do better as we move on, or do we do worse? Any guesses? We do worse. Yeah, so 2023, and just sticking with those couple numbers, and you guys can read the rest of it, but about $3 million or over $3 million was lost locally to fraud-related crime, and we were able to recover about 5% of those funds. In 2024, we do a little bit better. I suppose we have to keep in mind that some of these frauds, in 1 year there may be a fraud that's worth $800,000. So the value of it does skew the numbers potentially a little bit. But 2024, about $2.2 million lost locally, but only about 1% recovered. And moving into 2025, we see a significant increase in the loss of our money locally. So over $4 million lost to fraud and about 4% recovered. I don't know if you were surprised at these numbers, but when I started doing these presentations, they were very, very disheartening. And I was quite taken back at how much money just in Medicine Hat we're losing. So at 65,000 some people, I can't imagine in the bigger communities too. I would imagine we're very kind of static with the other communities in Alberta, and that's a lot of money that's going out of our country or could be going into positive things within our community. So normally when I do the presentation, I try to have a goal set for myself to speak about all these tips and tricks and see if I can hit them all without getting to this point. But for the purpose of speaking here, these are what we need to do in order to not lose as much money locally and to not become victims of crime. So if in doubt, speak to someone you trust. Undoubtedly, this is going to lower the success of fraudsters within Medicine Hat and anywhere drastically. If we communicate with each other before we commit to something that seems like it could be a fraud, we are going to stop becoming victims. Something seems too good to be true. It likely is. We just need to slow things down, especially if somebody's ever putting pressure or timelines on us, then we just have to evaluate that as we're going. Don't provide information, and I said it earlier, don't provide information unless you're certain that who it's going to, and if it makes sense. So legitimate places already have our information, and keep in mind what information we're providing. Again, that idea of a social insurance number being released to a telephone company may not make sense. So if we're aware of that heading into those conversations, that will help us out. Call back businesses to their regular office numbers. So if we just, again, slow things down, do our own research, and call back to those businesses and directly, it will weed out lots of the fraudsters. And I didn't say this earlier, but never pay any agency, business, or police with gift cards. And I'll extend that a little bit further, or with any type of cryptocurrency. Legitimate businesses are not accepting payment through gift cards. So everything has a purpose. Gift cards definitely have a purpose. They're for giving to someone as a gift. They're not for paying our utility bills or paying bail or anything, or paying any type of bill really. And cryptocurrency, the same goes with that. Police aren't going to be accepting cryptocurrency for any type of fine payment or for bail money, nor is the CBSA or Canada Revenue Agency. As soon as we hear, if we find ourselves on the phone or texting or through email communicating with businesses or government agencies and we hear gift cards or cryptocurrency, we need to stop what we're doing. And that will undoubtedly stop us from becoming victims of fraud. You're not going to win something you didn't apply to win. I have many stories of how this is applicable to fraud, but if you didn't Subscribe to Publishers Clearinghouse, you're not going to get the big check and someone showing up at your door. It's just not going to happen. Let's not send money in any type of secret parcel. We've seen quite often where victims are convinced to go and withdraw a significant amount of cash and package it up in a shoebox and send it across the country. That idea of, I think hearing that word secret should be a trigger for us that why, if something's legitimate, why are we being asked to keep it a secret? The idea of down payments and full payments for products that we haven't received really is something we should stay away from now. Unless you know the person that you're providing a down payment to or a trusted company, if you're doing any type of purchases online or it's through marketplace style applications, then lots of times the fraud is coming with the down payment. So somebody who is advertising a vehicle on sale on Marketplace or Kijiji for, it's a $50,000 vehicle being offered for $25,000, so it looks like a wonderful deal, but they're just asking you for $100 to hold that vehicle to come and see it. That's the fraud, is they're just getting that down payment. And they're doing it 100 times until they get reported and it gets taken down. So unless you're doing a down payment or a full payment for products that you haven't received yet, unless you know that company or you know that person and trust them, let's not do it. Ask lots of questions. Legitimate businesses are not going to shy away from us asking questions, and they're not going to get mad or frustrated at us for asking them. So if anything, these places or these companies want our business. So ask the questions, gather the information, and then make informed decisions. Meet in locations that are safe and that you trust. If you're not aware, the Medicine Hat Police Service has a video recorded signed area right at the front of the police station for safe transactions. This is an opportunity for buyers or sellers of used items to meet in a location and exchange money for items that provides a bit of safety to them should something go wrong. At least it's video recorded. Also, for people that are planning to commit crime, this way it's highly unlikely they're going to want to come to the police station to use that as their location to commit the crime, I hope. We didn't talk about it too much with investments and such, but we're not going to open links from anywhere that we don't trust. So unless it's a trusted source, let's stay away from links that we don't know or unsolicited information being sent to us. I often say the internet it's a wonderful thing if it's used for what it's intended for. So if we go on and we search what we want to search, we're going to find it. The problem is your deepest, darkest, worst thought that you can think of. If you type it into the internet, you're going to find a whole bunch about that as well. And you're going to find ways to make yourself a victim of fraud. So be careful on what you click on. Don't let someone come, that you don't know come to your home to collect money from your house. If you find yourself in this situation, this is often as part of the grandparent scam. When it does become a local situation and someone's posing as a police officer or as someone from a courthouse and they're willing to come collect that money from your house, if you find yourself in that situation, that's an emergency. We have to get a hold of police right away, and we'll definitely be happy to help. But again, that's a better opportunity for police to investigate, to actually hold somebody accountable and hopefully recover money from previous frauds. And there are no links to free money. There just aren't. If you find it, please let me know, but they're just not there. So if you are a victim, there's some, typically I would do some printouts for everybody, but there's some places we can call. So obviously we want to know fraud is horrendously underreported. There is I believe there's probably some shame that goes along with feeling like you're becoming a victim of fraud and then underreporting or just learning it as a life lesson that I lost $800, so I'm not going to worry about reporting it and I just won't do that again. So sadly, I think all those numbers I showed you guys from 2022 to 2025 are probably much higher even. Make sure to notify your banks if you do something with one of your bank accounts or you send money. If you quickly get to them, they can often freeze it or stop that transaction from happening and recover your cash, as well as launch an internal investigation on their own end. And then more along the identity fraud section, there's that Equifax TransUnion the Canadian Anti-Fraud Center, all numbers that we're going to provide to people once they've provided too much of their information to flag if that information is getting used for anything. And then we do have some outreach at the Viner Center here locally. Okay. A little more than 20 minutes, but I know I rushed through a lot of it. It's just how it is. Do you have questions that I can help you with?
Thank you for the presentation, Sergeant Gregory. Commission questions. Vice Chair Keane.
Sure. Thank you for the presentation. It's very insightful. Is there a certain, you talked about a number, and maybe you did cover this, forgive me if you did. There are a number of different areas or means of fraud happening. Is there one that is the largest percentage of frauds happening in this particular way in our community?
I think there's such a variety of different types of frauds that happen. I think the one that affects us the most financially is going to be some type of investment fraud. And it can look like so many different things. But typically we see it in that cryptocurrency way. That one way or another, a person is contacted and encouraged to invest a little bit of money into some type of cryptocurrency. And sometimes I've seen a few times where once they do that deposit, they'll even be given a little bit of money back, showing that their investment that they've made is working. And then it just grows from there. So I don't know if that's the most common in numbers, but that's definitely the one that seems to have the highest financial impact, is when money is deposited, hoping for a large return on an investment.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions? Councillor Cox?
Just satisfying my own curiosity here, I think I know the answer, but quite often online you'll get an email saying, from some company you've never heard of, saying that they want to pay their invoice or something like that. Obviously, you just delete those, but if they sometimes provide links, and occasionally you might be tempted to see further what this might be about. Are you in jeopardy as soon as you click on that link? Is that going to steal information from your computer?
Well, there's some fear that it could, okay? So having the email itself isn't risky. So receiving that email or opening the email itself isn't going to allow access to your phone and to your bank account. And just one thing before I forget about it, when you receive those emails, often the title of the email will look legitimate, right? It'll look legitimate from a company. But if you hover over it and actually let the email address be shown, it's a quick trick to look at it, and often it's just numbers and letters thrown into a random email, which should be a great indicator to us that that's not a real email address to that company. The worry is when you open those emails and there's links. So anyone that's worked in companies that has an information technology section, if you've ever had a problem with your computer and you've had to call your IT team and say, hey, I have this problem going on, and they say, okay, just 1 second, and they do remote access. Has everyone seen that before, where suddenly you're looking at your computer and they're moving your mouse? So often when you get that email, if there's that link there, the worry is that that link isn't for the bank of your choice to click on it and go to their website. It's actually a permission on the back end giving them access to your device. And we do see that quite often I read my email, I clicked on a link, and all of a sudden someone was controlling my phone and making e-transfers out of my bank account. At which point, if the person or the victim isn't very, very fast and gets to their bank and has that stop, they become, they lose lots of finances. So I guess I don't have a 100% clear answer for you, but I don't think it's a good habit to click on those links. As a matter of fact, I just wouldn't click on those links.
No, I knew that. My question then, Medicine Hat Safe Communities Association.
Yes.
I probably should know more about that, so can you enlighten me?
Yeah, so the Medicine Hat Safe Community Association works with the Medicine Hat Police Service, typically to support initiatives often that the police service is involved in. So a big thing that they support is our EPIC program, so our Encouraging Positive Informed Choices program. They're a large financial supporter of it, and they help gather donations and such to keep that program sustainable. So that's the program that's taught throughout schools to mostly grade 4 and 6s, but also 7 to 12s. They are also involved in Kid Find. So when you're at the Medicine Hat Stampede or Canada Day or other kind of large scale festivals we'll have in Medicine Hat, they'll be involved in those child registrations to ensure that if we have a missing child, they can be linked back up with an adult quickly. And then fraud is the next initiative we're hoping that will help, again, citizens teach citizens and get the word out and prevent us from being victims.
So this is strictly a local organization, or do they have like a network across the province, across the country?
Yeah, no, they are completely local.
Completely local?
Yeah, that's right.
Okay.
Any other questions? All right, on behalf of the Medicine Hat Police Commission, Sergeant Gregory, thank you for your presentation. We appreciate you taking the time to join us tonight.
Yeah, thank you for your time. Take care.
With that, we will move on to standing items. Chief Murphy, police budget update.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, appreciate it. For the budget update, as you know, throughout 2025, we reported a small positive variance throughout the year. At year end, the City of Medicine Hat reconciles the various budget lines based on what was budgeted versus what the actuals were. One such one for us is the benefit rate. Benefit rate was forecast at 24.25% in 2025. The actual came in at 25.2% is what the actual amount was, which actually gave us a negative variance, unfortunately, at year end due to the change in benefit rate. So just to report that, and please answer any questions if there are any questions about that.
Thank you, Chief Murphy. Any questions? Seeing none, the AAPG report. Commissioner Johnson.
I have nothing.
Thank you. Back to the Chief, the Office of the Chief report. I'll let you take this one away, Chief.
I will turn it over for the operational services report to Inspector Graham.
Thank you, Chief. Good evening, Commission members. I'll have you turn your attention to page 12 of your package. And I'll start off with highlighting an event that occurred on January 2nd, where members of the Medicine Hat Police Service patrol section attended to a report of a robbery in the 500 block of Belfast Street. Upon arriving at the scene, a police officer saw two suspects at the scene, with one of them holding a firearm. At this time, the suspect discharged his firearm, not striking the police officer, but the suspect then fled on foot from the scene. A few days later, on January 6th, patrol officers continued on with the investigation into this incident, and they located two suspects in relation to this in the 2000 block of 8th Avenue Northeast. Both suspects were taken into custody without incident. So as a result of this incident, a 33-year-old Medicine Hat man has been charged with several criminal code offenses, including robbery with a firearm, pointing a firearm, wearing a disguise in the commission of offense, plus numerous other offenses. The male was held in custody, and then also the co-accused, a 31-year-old female from Medicine Hat, was charged with numerous criminal offenses, including robbery with a firearm and wearing a disguise with the commission of an indictable offense. Next, I'll have you turn your attention to page 13 of your package, and I'm going to take this time to speak about our drone unit. In January, our drone unit was very active, and I'll highlight a few incidences here. During the reported period of January, the Medicine Hat Police Service drone unit completed 21 operational deployments, providing critical aerial support to our patrol unit, K-9, tactical teams, and other agencies. These deployments included high-risk overwatch, compound and large area searches, missing and suicidal person investigations, perimeter containment, collision documentation, and assistance with arrestable and fleeing suspects. The consistent use of our drone technology enhanced officer safety, improved situational awareness, and supported timely decision-making and coordinating across units. I'll speak about one incident where the drone unit was used during a high-risk hazardous material incident involving a suicidal individual who had generated hydrogen sulfide gas, which is H2S gas, inside of his vehicle. Drone overwatch provided continuous situational awareness, supported perimeter and management, and significantly reduced officer exposure while police coordinated with fire and EMS. The individual complied with direction to exit the vehicle and was taken into custody without incident, after which fire personnel confirmed lethal gas concentrations and assumed scene control of the decontamination. The subject was transported to hospital under the Mental Health Act. Next, I'll have you turn to the top of page 14, and I'll finish off with one more drone unit incident. So our drone unit was utilized to support a residential break-and-enter and investigation by providing aerial surveillance and real-time observation of a suspect vehicle identified through CCTV review. The drone-assisted monitoring allowed our police members to discreetly track the vehicle's movements and document travel patterns throughout neighborhoods, experiencing multiple break-and-enters, identifying behavior consistent with surveillance and target selection. The intelligence gathered through this drone-supported patrol activity was shared with our criminal investigation section and directly contributed to the identification and arrest and capture of the suspect. That is my report for January. Thank you. I'll take any questions.
Thank you, Inspector Graham. Any questions for Inspector Graham? Vice Chair Keen.
Thank you for your report, Inspector Graham. I just had a question in regards to property crime. And I've noticed at the bottom of page 11, some of the year-over-year stats for January's 24, 25, and 26, that this particular January of 2026, they seem to be substantially higher than both 2025 and 2024. I'm just wondering if you had any thoughts on why that may be.
Certainly. Thanks for your question. Yeah, in January of this year, the discrepancy is a result of a rash of commercial break-and-enters that we had, and that's why those numbers are the way they are. Thanks.
Any other questions for Inspector Graham? Seeing none. Chief Murphy had to step out. We will move on to Investigative and Support Services. Inspector West, please.
Thank you, Chair. Just on page 17, under the Major Crimes Unit, I'll just talk a little bit about a successful apprehension of a high-risk offender who had absconded prior to sentencing. So in this situation, we had an individual who had been convicted of drug trafficking and several other offenses on one of our files from some time ago. Went through the court process, pled guilty, tried to pull back on his guilty plea. That was unsuccessful, and so it came to a date for sentencing. And we had some indications that he wouldn't show up to sentencing. He didn't, and as a result, we really wanted to, because of the person's background and criminal history, it was really important from a community safety and public confidence perspective to get this person into custody. So there was a lot of coordination between our surveillance units, our criminal investigation section, and tactical team. In fact, in one search for that person, we partnered with the Redcliffe RCMP because there was a building in Redcliffe that we thought he might be in, or there might be evidence. So we searched that. So just a really great coordination of efforts. We finally did get the person under arrest. We got him at a house on the South Flats here. And that was, again, a really great coordination of all our units, really, patrols, a tactical team. And at the end of the day, walked out of the house. We were fully prepared for it to go to a prolonged incident, but it didn't. And so that subject was safely apprehended without any injuries to our officers or him. And so just a really great coordinated effort to get that person in custody. And moving on to our training unit on page 18. So sort of related to that, we had the Medicine Hat Police Service has three, we try and have a cadre of 3 critical incident commanders. So these are usually the sergeant or staff sergeant level. These are the ones that are called in for our prolonged events and are the decision makers. They go through a 2-week, very intensive course, and it is, I can tell you, it's not one of those courses where if you show up, you pass. This is the type of course where you're vigorously tested, and they have a lot of people have to retake the course after. So this, with the retirement of Staff Sergeant Humphreys, who was one of our critical incident commanders, we got another one trained. So Sergeant McGuigan is a newly minted incident commander, and just a great, it's great when somebody steps forward to do that job because it's a tough one. Requires a lot of commitment, and you talk about pressure in the incident command room, it's all on the incident commander. So we're happy to have him aboard. And just on page 19, just a bit of an update with recruit training. So the week 17 moving into 18, and they're really in the thick of things now with regard to the hard skills. So they're receiving their TASER training, so CEW training, CDSA training, so the Controlled Drugs and Substance Act training. So really in sort of the thick of it, and of the 24-week program. So they're busy. And that's all I have for the update, and happy to take any questions.
Seeing no questions, I'll turn it over to Deputy Chief Saney.
Thank you, Chief. I don't have anything to report. Thank you.
Thanks, Deputy, and Mr. Chair, I don't also, there's nothing else for me to report, but I'm happy to answer any questions that the commission might have in general.
Any questions for the Office of the Chief? Seeing none, we had no new business arise for this meeting. With that, we have nobody in the gallery this evening. The next Police Commission meeting is on Wednesday, March 18th in Council Chambers. With that, we will adjourn. Thank you very much. Thanks for those who joined us online.